Welcome to another episode of Season 3 of the Panjwai Podcast. As usual, you can find our episodes on YouTube, Facebook, and your favorite podcast platform, whether that's Spotify or Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio. You pick it, we're there.
If you want to support the podcast financially, we've set up a few ways for you to do so this season. You can become a patron by hopping over to patreon.com/the Panjwai Podcast and sign up for a small monthly donation. If you want to make a one-time donation, you can find us on Venmo at the Panjwai Podcast. And last but not least, we've got a small selection of merchandise in our store. So if you head over to thepanjwaipodcast.com and click on the store tab, you'll see stickers and other merchandise, and who knows what might come down the pipeline.
All that I can hope is you take me with you when you go. I guess I should have known I can't leave with you when you go. Now Cow Island is awfully quiet, with your screen door staying closed. And if I learned French like you told me, baby, I would hear your ghost.
Yeah, man, they had this disease or sickness out there. And I didn't get hurt. I mean, I did almost lose my finger. I got it sewed back on. Doc Detmers, Aaron Detmers, he sewed it back on for me. And I got video of it. I was laughing the whole time because I just didn't want to cry or anything. There's only two ways to process pain, man. So I laughed at it. But yeah, they have this disease called the Nangarhar fever or whatever. It was like sandfly fever on steroids. Really? And I was trying to go to sleep, so every time I would pass out in the bird, I hadn't eaten for 6 days and shit like that, and whatever my fever was. And so every time I would pass out in the bird, the flight medic, he would sternum rub me, and I'd be like, "Fuck, dude!" I was like, "I'm fine, man. I'm not gonna die." Yeah.
What happened to the finger, dude?
It almost got chopped off, man. They set it back on, and it works pretty well. It's just got a pretty gnarly scar going on.
Chopped off by what, though?
Afghanistan. It just does it. Just does what Afghanistan does.
All right. Man of mystery. You were playing Five Finger Fillet, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
no.
With a hatchet.
Yeah. Right.
Here's the Joe Dirt picture.
I can barely see that.
Shit, you can't.
Yeah, it's that glare on the leg. I was trying
now.
to cover it up like I was going to do something. Oh, yeah. You look, that's very, it's very Hank Williams like. That's what it looks
that.
Yeah.
You need to go back to it.
It's very Hank Williams, man.
I am all for
Terrible.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, every veteran has a full beard.
More Charlie Daniels.
Not everyone
that
can
look
pull
very
that
Charlie
off.
Daniels.
Yeah,
Charlie
see?
Daniels.
Yeah.
Well, the story behind that is I told my cousin what I wanted to do was shave the goatee down. So we were out horseback riding in South Dakota. So I wanted to look cowboy, And I told my cousin, shave the goatee down, but leave the chops and the stash. And I wanted to see if it would kind of work, Mm-hmm. Well, he took the chopping away, the shave, lived a little too liberally for my taste, and I ended up looking like fucking Joe Dirt.
All you need is that Cuda, son.
But I was laying in the back of my truck. He was out fly fishing, and I was sitting there listening to the Mexican folk music, drinking a beer. Yeah. And these riders come up, and I raised up, and I said, "You boys seen a guy down there in a cowboy hat fishing?" And they're like, no. But they looked at me like I had landed from outer space, man. Some honky ass South Dakotan type scene. Yeah. Oh, but
anyways. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Panjwai Podcast. We are sitting here with Ronnie Morgan. Ronnie was a staff sergeant and a squad leader at Sperwan Ghar in 2012, amongst many other hats that he wore during his time there. Ronnie was one of the few seasoned NCOs in our company that had actually been not only to war before, but also had been to Afghanistan multiple times. Ronnie was in 3rd Platoon, so he brings us a little bit of a unique perspective of our tour that, even we didn't get a whole lot of eyes on, just because, if you're familiar with how platoons in the infantry work, that other platoon are all assholes and you don't talk to them. And so, so we never got a full story of what the deployment was necessarily like for 3rd Platoon. And that's why we're really excited to have Ronnie on. So Ronnie, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's my pleasure. I didn't even know that you guys were doing this thing, and somebody sent me a link because I don't have Facebook or Instagram.
Oh,
I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Well,
good man. Glad you found us out.
I started listening to them.
We're glad to have you on because
it's my pleasure.
You provide a lot of insight that a lot of folks can't provide. But before we go down that wormhole, the way that we usually kick these things off is, why did you join the Army? Why did you choose the infantry? And kind of give us the quick spiel of how you ended up in Panjwai.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my mom was in the Air Force, so 27 years. So I wish she was supposed to retire 1 October 2001, and September 11th happened, and she got stop loss. So she ended up doing quite a bit more than 20 years. So I think she did 27 years. And, she was gone a lot and always traveling. I read a lot. And specifically like Vietnam was always my focus. Like I don't know what it was about Vietnam. Is just something that I gravitated towards since I was like a child. All I could picture myself was being, a man with a green face humping through the jungles of Vietnam and like hunting down bad guys. But, I was fascinated by it. And, I got kicked out of Germany. Well, I got stuck in Germany for a little while, and after I got kicked out, I was back in the States. And I found myself in, Louisiana and Texas, California, Vegas, Arizona, back in Texas, just kind of wandering around. I thought I'd always wanted to join the military. And I was in college, and I was trying to talk to the Air Force guy so I could be a CCT, and the Navy guy so I could go to BUDS. No, just neither one of them were ever there. So,
this is all pre 9/11.
Yeah, correct, pre 9/11. And so one day I was in between, my college and going to work. I was hungry. Hey man, let me see if I can gas this dude into give me a free lunch. So I just went to go rap to the Army recruiter, see if he'd take me across the street to Taco Cabana and give me some lunch and shit, right? Next thing you know, like, I'm signing papers, and I took the ASVAB and all that kind of nonsense, and out of at the time 212 MOSs, like I was eligible for 212 of them. I said, well, there's only one. I mean, I already knew where I wanted to go. So they put me on a Ranger contract. I went. I joined, and then after all of that, I was trying to go to second bat because my brother was a crew chief in the Air Force at McCord Air Force Base. So, second bat was at Lewis. Didn't work out that way. I spent a year on Benning, and it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So I got orders back out to the regular Army, and I ended up in Hawaii. From Hawaii, I did a tour in Afghanistan. I came back, and I went to a 4ID. I did a tour in Iraq, and I came back from there. I went to the 101st, and did tours in the 101st. I came back from there. That's how I ended up in 3rd ID after the 101st. 3rd ID? No.
Yeah. I mean, that makes you one of the most seasoned, probably the most seasoned person in the company.
On the podcast. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in the company for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're right up there with Kitching. I mean, yeah. I would only argue that you probably have more time. You had more time in Afghanistan at that point because he was in Ranger Regiment. So
dude, I flick shit to to Camp Kitchen, Kunar Kitchen now all the time.
Little 3-month tours.
Yeah.
3-month windshield tours of
all
Afghanistan.
Of my friends who are in regiment, they're just you get an extra paid vacation to sleep all damn day, do steroids, work out, rage,
go on a 2-hour mission,
maybe a 2-hour hit, and then come back. But those dudes are exceptional, man. Like if there's any force in the special ops community to be in, like regiment is it.
And I think if there's any part of special operations that have been so effectively molded by this conflict, it's Ranger Regiment.
Oh yeah, they like when I was there, it was, we were BDUs and black boots, but it was like every Monday was spits and starches. Like your uniform needed to be able to stand up on its own without a body inside of it, because there's so much starch in there. And like it was high and tights. And like nowadays you see a dude with the high and tight and you're like, that dude's corny, man. And and these dudes have relaxed grooming standards now, and they like they look and play the part in there. They are exceptional at what they do. I used to see them at JBAT. I'm sure you did when you were flying out of there. We call it the dark side, the other side of the airfield. We just say the dark side. Yeah. You see them all
we
the
don't
time.
talk about what happens on that side of the airfield.
Yeah, right.
But it's an interesting observation, because they started, pre 9/11. They were like a supporting special operations force. They were there for the other units, and they were very good at what they did. But it wasn't until like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years into the War on Terror, they just they became the lead force.
No idea. Like I was in my own, and like they were the thing. They were it. And like they were the natural progression to taking the long walk and being a D-boy. And it was like those dudes are straight stone cold killers, man. And it's incredible to watch them.
And speaking of stone cold killers, I think the audience doesn't need to be misdirected by your demeanor and your easygoingness, because Ronnie Morgan is a stone cold killer.
So I do what I can for my country.
It's like the most soft-spoken, laid-back NCO I ever came across, and then when the shit gets real, it's like this dude's towing the fucking line and just laying waste. So.
Yeah. I guess my demeanor kind of strikes people weird or whatever. And like you should see my company now. My drills are like, so I'm a company first sergeant at Jackson. Like, no, I just have these drills, and they're like, "Don't you ever get mad?" And I'm like, I mean, what's it gonna change? You know what I mean?
Getting mad at a bunch of 18-year-olds.
Yeah. I mean, especially that.
Yeah, like remember, like weeks ago, these dudes were giving you your burger through the drive-through window or whatever it is. Like they're gonna mess up, man. Like, what's to get mad about? And they're like, well, how come you don't yell at us? Or because you're just doing what you're supposed to do, and my job isn't to like try to correct you or call you out in public. Like, if you do something wrong, we have a conversation real quick, and nothing needs to be said about it more than that.
Plus, it's your drill sergeant's job to terrorize them.
Yeah.
It's your E6s they're the ones that need to be,
absolutely.
interfaced.
But those first tours, what was it going to change? It's not going to change anything. So I just, I accepted things kind of the way that they were and helped shape the future instead of like focusing on the past. So I've always just been real calm about things.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
As a junior soldier to you, at a time where we served together, I appreciated that about you. And as I progressed and I became a leader myself, I appreciate that approach to leadership, because you're absolutely right. It does no good to yell at the guy or to lose your cool or be an asshole. Now all you are is an asshole to him. He hasn't learned anything. So I appreciate that, and I wish more leaders took that approach.
Yeah, my whole perspective was always just, I've never forgotten what it was like to be an E1 or an E2 or an E3 or E4, like digging like foxholes, scraping out ranger graves, having to hump shit all over the place, having to clean things. Like I've just never forgot what that was like, and I tried to maintain that, and just wanted to try to do the best. I just wanted people to know that I wasn't ever concerned about me. I was more concerned about like the people that I was supposed to be taking care of, because America entrusted me with their sons and daughters. Well, their daughters now, but their sons at the time. Yeah. You know, and like I felt that responsibility. Like it was mine, and I tried to own it the best that I could.
That's good, man. I mean, it's really encouraging for me, being like the jaded, embittered, crusty E4 is always at the core of who my soldier life was, and I fucking hated it so much because I got treated like an idiot all the time.
Yeah,
I'm not an idiot. You know, I'm a fairly intelligent guy. So it's encouraging to see dudes who take that approach but stay in and are willing to deal with the bullshit of being in the Army in order to better boister what's going on inside the Army. So
I've known
much respect.
I've known great people, man, and like it pains me every time as they're walking out the door, sir, but like, you know, I know this sucks right now, man, but the Army needs you. We need you, or otherwise we're not going to survive the next war. And just no matter what, like, you know, nobody wants to put up with that shit, and they leave.
Yeah, I always say that some of the best people I've ever met in my life were in the ranks of the infantry. Yeah. Some of the worst people I've ever met in my life were in the ranks of the infantry.
Oh, yeah,
you don't really get like mediocre a lot. You know, it's either exceptional or a complete piece of shit.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time at work. We're like there's two people in the infantry. You're either like the genius who created the light bulb, or you're the idiot who sits in the corner eating light bulbs. Like it's one or the other. There's really there's really not some guy who is like, oh, I did trig in high school, but you know, I didn't get past that or whatever it was. Like,
well, what's interesting about that is like there's a very heavy career incentive to a lot of people to join the infantry. So it's like that's your path to Ranger Regiment or to Special Forces, or if you're an officer, that is your straight line to general, man. If you're an infantryman, like that freaking CIB or an EIB on your chest, man, you're good. Get a Ranger tab too, you're set.
Oh yeah.
In the other MOSs, it's not quite. I mean, it's an exception to make general if you're like a aviation officer or a field artillery officer. Like it's an accomplishment. You're expected to make it if you go that route as an infantryman. So you see a lot of very, very motivated, very highly intelligent people in the infantry because they're very goal oriented.
Yeah.
They see it as a means to an end, or they just love the idea of going out and killing people, which I'm totally on board with as well.
Yeah, dude, I was a Pathfinder at Campbell. I had a guy who had 2 master's degrees. One of them was in rocket engineering. He was a legit rocket scientist for NASA.
Yeah.
Like he quit NASA to join the Army. And was just some dumb infantryman, like he's an E4, and I was like, I wanted to slap him and be like, how can you be so smart and be so stupid? Like, you have 2 master's degrees, like you're a fucking rocket scientist, and like, what are you doing here? Like, you don't belong
our very
here.
own Stuart Nentz also showed up with a master's degree in political science.
Yeah, right. But
he went enlisted.
Yeah,
now
like every officer in the Army, there's 4 degrees that every officer in the Army has. They're either poli-sci, psychology,
military history,
or education. Those are the only 4.
Education, yeah.
All 4.
Need to get some more communications majors.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
Nentz,
and it turns out exceptional people too. Yeah, I mean he's now a diplomatic service guy for the State Department.
Yeah, State Department.
And he's got a freaking law degree. He's a lawyer.
He's got a law degree.
I heard his thing, and I could see that stupid grin on his face the whole time as I was listening to it. I didn't know that there was YouTube videos at the time. Like technology is not my thing, and I don't YouTube. I don't do any of these things. And I imagine that there's a video, but like in my head, I could see like 2012 Nentz and that stupid like smile and like all the time and like
it's all over that episode. Really,
yeah, dude,
that's one of my favorite episodes.
Nentz was always one of my favorites. Episode. He wasn't even in my platoon, but he was just a funny, like he was somebody who brought levity to a situation, and it was good.
Oh yeah, definitely. Levity is the right word for Nentz and his presence. And another exceptional NCO who didn't come to it trying to overcompensate and be a ball buster. It reeks of insecurity when people are like that, How do you deal with that as a first sergeant? Like, do you check dudes when they try to fucking nut up and be all hoorah, or do you...
Like, we have conversations, and I'm like, bro, like, I try to have one-on-one conversations with people. I'm like, but everybody has to figure out their own way. I mean, I would venture to say that you could go back and there's probably people who would be like, Sergeant Morgan is not one to trifle with, or that dude's an asshole. Like there are people that I have hammered, but I've done for different reasons, not off a GP. I did as a Sergeant First Class, I did it for a little while, but that was to bring my platoon together and not to prove a point or anything like that. Like there was nothing I needed to prove. I just I needed to help bring them together. And so like that was one of the times I would institute like mass punishment. Like somebody fucks up, like everybody paid the price for it. And like those dudes were like they were the cream of the crop. And you could ask like Colonel Kearney now. So if you've seen like what's that movie?
Restrepo, right?
Restrepo,
Yeah.
I met Captain Dan Kearney. Yeah, them.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, after the movie, he's like, when he used to talk shit to people, he'd be like, "I'm in 2 movies, motherfucker. What did you done with your life?" Like,
God.
Like later on, as Lieutenant Colonel Kearney, I think he's Colonel Kearney now. I had one of the best fortunes of my life to be a platoon sergeant in his battalion, and like my platoon absolutely dominated the landscape, and that's where we found ourselves in Momon in 2017.
Oh, so he was the battalion commander on the ground in 2017?
He was.
Interesting.
An exceptional,
I had no idea.
Exceptional leader, like somebody who actually cared for like the paratroopers.
Yeah.
And not just like he'll tell you all the time, he's like, I don't give a fuck if I'm a general. Like I don't expect to be a general. And his dad's General Kearney. But like absolutely was one hell of a leader, is one hell of a leader to this day.
I think if you come out in the back end of the Korengal and that whole period of time, you gotta learn a couple things.
Yeah, right.
That's actually a really good segue. We wanted to kind of walk a little bit through your previous deployments, just to kind of give a little bit of context against the Panjwai deployment, because you're one of the very few people that can provide a real on the ground gritty infantry, not necessarily like comparison, but just kind of place Panjwai in its own box, because you've experienced combat in a lot of different areas of Afghanistan and Iraq.
Right.
So your first deployment was just after the initial invasion of Afghanistan?
Yeah, so I was in the 25th. I was in 3rd Brigade, and we flew into Bagram, and then my platoon was detached to go to Kabul to guard a safe house. Pretty sure it was like a CIA safe house, something to that. Like there was this were in the pre-interview, there was a guy, there in he had a DCU top on, but with the Ranger scroll from Vietnam, like a LERP patch as a combat patch. Dude. And like the guy had like the look, and you knew like he wasn't one to be fucked with. And I was like, holy like in my world, like I just immediately like freaked out and started fangirling, like, and like all I want to do is go talk to this guy. Like I could give a shit about LeBron James or Mariah Carey, or like, to me, like this guy is like a superstar. I'm like and I just, all I wanted to do was geek out. So from Kabul, my battalion was fighting down in Ghazni. I left Kabul. We left Kabul and ended up in Tarankot. So we were down in TK.
Drive.
Yeah, well, we flew.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So we found our way back to Bagram, flew out of Bagram into TK.
Okay.
And at the time, like, it was just a little dirt strip. I'm not sure what it looks like now. It's been a while since.
It's not much more, to be completely honest. It's a paved strip now, but there's not much infrastructure.
Yeah, and it was all
they never
like
built
moon dust and like that really fine like chalk powder. Like when you step on it, it just goes. Oh yeah. And So from TK, we got told that we're gonna push way out into the Uruzgan and go set up a company COP. And like, fuck, it was nuts, dude. Like, there's bombed out Russian tanks and like APCs, and like you could see history.
Yeah.
And like for us, we're like, holy fuck, like this truly is the graveyard of empires. But to the Afghans there, it's just Tuesday. You know what I mean? And like you know, we drove and it seems like it took forever. It must have been days. I have no idea. But like by the time we got there, like one of the Humvees was already broken down, and like we're tow barring it in. Then like, you know, we're in LMTVs also. So like the way we did it was we put 2 rows of MREs down the center, and we just sat back to back facing out. And that was how we put security in this thing. Like no like sandbags lined with, you know, things like I don't even remember IEDs being that big of a thing. We're getting like a threat brief about it. We were concerned about mines because at the time, like Afghanistan was the most mined country in the world. Them and Yugoslavia were like having at it. But you know, we went out and must have seen like days, and you know, we set up a place called Cobra Base, and like we're just out there, and you know, one night, like it was like a switch, it got kind of turned on, and we were like, okay, this shit's real. And then, you know, we fought there and then between that, we also had the responsibility, the company had the responsibility of pushing the platoon over to Dehrawood, DRW. I think it's called Fob Tykes, like TYCZ or something. Fob Tykes. I think it was named after an SF dude who was killed, and to support the ODA that was out there. So that was a rotation that happened in our company. I think we went once, so I'm sure the rotation was a while, but spent the rest of that tour out there, out in the Uruzgan fighting.
What was the fighting like back then? Like, was there a noticeable difference over the years, or was it just kind of?
I've heard you guys talk about. So you know, again, like, you know, my disclaimer, like I don't have Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, so I really didn't know, like, you know, this was a thing. But you know, I got told about it, and I started listening to it, and I heard like your guys talking about the disparity between, you know, Afghan and American forces, and how we, you know, and guilty of it as well, like didn't really, you know, engage with them that much, and like didn't really know them, and I honestly didn't care for them one way or the other, like, but you know, that tour, like we knew those dudes, man, like, you know, we talked to them they ate in our DFAC. I say our DFAC, but what I mean was there was an empty clot, and we told the people to get out and we'll rent it from them. And then we built extra mud walls and placed connexes around place. So we built a COP from nothing out there, and people like have no idea what that was like. But we knew those dudes, and there was two Marines embedded with them. At the time, they were called ETTs, the embedded training team. Yeah. So there was 2 Marines with them. One was a first sergeant, and one was, I'm pretty sure, like a staff sergeant or something like that. But we knew those dudes and those people, and like they were all like ANASF, and they were all dudes who like every single one of them like despised the Taliban. Every single one of them was absolutely fearsome. Every single one of them like was fighting and dying for their country. Like they'd all been shot, stabbed, like blown up with grenades or whatever. But you know, like
what year was that?
04
okay.
There. Yeah. So you know, like my first firefight, you know, I was on guard with my squad leader, Staff Sergeant Jeffrey Elgo at the time, First Sergeant Elgo, I think 4th Sergeant Major Elgo. I'm not sure if he's in the academy or not. And like he looks up and he looks at the moon and he's like, "That's a nasty moon." No sooner had he said it, man, than like RPG came flying in, and then there was just tracers in the fucking sky. And I was like, holy shit, like these dudes got some balls, man. Like it was like everything that they had was thrown at us. That was the first time I saw somebody get shot, so I was on guard, and like Staff Sergeant DeYoung, I think he's in the Indiana National Guard now. He got shot in the butt, directly in the buttocks. And and like we're like, holy shit, man. And like I'm like low crawling. I was an RTO at the time, so I grabbed my radio, it Z'd out. Like I'm like filling it with the ANCD, no SKLs, with the ANCD and at night, like undercover through memory. And like I had one of the only working radios out there. And like I ran around through the outside of the compound. Because all there was a wall. There was nothing else. Just a wall. There was no buildings, no nothing. Ran out and like I found my best friend in the world, man, Chris Cleveland. And like we're just two idiots, and I'm like hopping from position to position. I'm Chris, and he's like, "I'm over here, Mo." And he stood up, and we're just two idiots, man, and we hugged each other. And I was like, "I love you, Chris," and he's like, "I love you too, Mo." And then like we're like, "Okay, it's time to go to work." And then you know, we fought through the night, and then we were like chasing and looking for people till the sun came up. And the medevacs didn't want to come get us because they said it was too hot. No, they didn't want to come get our wounded. I think it was an Air Force PJ that came to get us, and it was like 3 hours later. And like you know, it was whatever, man. I mean, it was just a firefight, but they'd been telling us for days, like, the Taliban's coming to hit you. And we're like, okay, because we've been hearing this for like months. Like, no, the Taliban's coming. And they tried to tell us. They were like, no, the Taliban's coming. And we're like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Sure, guy. Sure enough, yeah, they came. And then they just kind of didn't stop from there. But it wasn't...
This would have been kind of like the resurgence of the Taliban in 2004. Yeah. This is when they were just starting to make their comeback.
Coming out of hiding and like making their way back. And then we were in the Uruzgan, which is a Taliban stronghold. Mm-hmm. And it was very like high desert. Like some places you could get mountainous, some places not as high, like almost permanently snow-capped mountains. So we're like at the foothills of the Hindu Kush. But like, you know, when you're getting rocketed at Cobra Base, like it's 99 meters by like when the rockets are flying in, you know where they're coming here.
Right.
And we didn't have anything. We just had to put on our vest and go hug a piece of the wall and wait and see if we were going to get hit or not. No, like it wasn't anything as up close and personal, like as it was in the Panjwai. Like the Panjwai, like they're like right there.
Yeah. And
then, I went to Iraq, and I fought in Baghdad. I fought in Ottomaya and Sadr City. And I was in 4ID along with the 101st there. And, it's urban. And it's urban warfare. And, like, now IEDs are, like, a really big thing. And, like, that was how all of our people were getting hit. Not really small arms or anything like that. It was nobody would really stand and fight with us at the time. Really? And which is kind of, if you've ever like walked down the streets in like Ottomaya or Sadr City, you could be in the alleyways and like you'll see you're surrounded by high rises and stuff, and you can see how like you get how, like when they decided to have those uprisings there, like how an American platoon or whoever could come into some serious trouble because there's nowhere you could go. There's nothing you could do but be surrounded. I think of the movie The Kingdom, Jamie Foxx.
Oh, yeah.
That end scene, like very much like that. Like you could run into trouble very quickly there. And, our Brads could only go, so many places. And then the Humvees almost useless against most of the IEDs. So.
Right. So that was your first exposure to the mechanized world then?
Yeah. Iraq? Yeah, my first time getting in the Bradley was in Kuwait. It was miserable. It's 150 degrees in a turret, like in the heat of summer. I'd never been in a Bradley, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be in the Army, for much longer. I did my first tour, like those firefights and everything. I was absolutely addicted to war. It was the one place where I ever felt normal. And like when I would come back to the States, I just did not feel right. I wasn't necessarily nervous or like twitchy a lot. Like I don't sleep. I'll just drink all fucking day. And I just didn't feel right back in the States. But, in theater, this is me, man. Like I'm comfortable. Like I feel right. Like my weapon, she's always named Matilda. Like Matilda is right there, minus Iraq, dude. Like I was in a combined arms battalion, like we were in 164, except for the BC was a tanker. No, he took all the M4s from the infantry and gave them to the tankers, and then gave all of us M16s. So I was walking down the streets of Baghdad with an M16 with a 203 attached to the like commando, like Predator, and like
that's terrible.
There was nothing we could do, man. That was my weapon of choice. She was not Matilda.
No, she didn't earn that name.
No, she did not.
Her name was like Bertha or something.
Yeah. She was. I was ashamed to take her home to my family. But, she'll do at like 2 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah, you weren't going to write home to mama about
Yeah, right, exactly.
But you'd hog out in the streets of Baghdad.
Right? Yeah, man. This giant, and, I'm not an overly big person. I'm 5'9". I'm like, this thing, I felt like this thing was proportionate to me. It was ridiculous. Like, it was just stupid. So, and then
But you volunteered for that deployment, essentially, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
You forced yourself into that situation.
Yeah, at the time, like the patch chart was written in the Army Times, and like everybody used to get the Army Times. You go to the shop out, like you're getting some snacks, and the Army Time, like everybody used to get it. You could just kind of see who was deploying. And when I came back, I re-enlisted, so I could get there. She was like the recruiter or the re-enlistment lady. She's the only female in our battalion, 2-5 infantry, Bobcats. We own the night. She's the only female in the battalion. She was like, well, I can't guarantee you 4ID. All I could do is get you to Fort Hood. And I was like, do that. Sure shit, man. I was on orders to 1st Cav. So at the time, this was before BRAC. It was 4ID and 1st Cav that were there at Fort Hood. 3rd ACR was at Carson with a brigade from 4ID.
Right.
And I made a nuisance of myself and marched into people's buildings and places of business where I had no business being, and demanded that they put me in 4ID so that I could
I love
get
the
on this
idea. It's
deployment.
like cocksure E4. You're an E4, right?
E4, yeah.
Yeah, I love the idea. It's like cocksure E4, just like kicking in a door of an office of some sergeant major, just being like laying on the table.
Yeah.
Like, here's what's gonna happen, bro.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, who the fuck do you think you are? You know what I mean? And I'm like, do you see this line in the sand dragging behind me as I walk? That's who I am. That's who I am. Man.
Man.
That's again, like, good. I was addicted to it, and like I knew my purpose. You know what I mean? Like people go their whole life struggling to find that purpose. I knew it. Yeah. That was what I wanted. Like I felt comfortable.
Identify a moment where you feel like you found that purpose, or was it kind of a gradual awareness?
It was gradual. I think I just I didn't get scared. It didn't really scare me. And it's not because I'm stupid or I didn't understand the gravity of the situation or anything like that. I just felt... I think I probably have convinced myself over years of being a child and just like reading. I mean, I read books by the thousands, of these people from Vietnam. And like, I figure, if they could do it, I could do it. And then the way I reasoned it when I got to Hood and I was talking to that sergeant major was like, you know, do you want somebody who hasn't done this before, doesn't want to go, doesn't know what they're doing, and is going to get somebody killed? Or do you want somebody who's been there, understands what they're doing, wants to go, and is going to do his best to bring everybody home alive? Like, right. And yeah, sure enough, they amended my orders from 1st Cav to 4ID. And 6-7 months after being home in the States, I found myself back in combat in Iraq. Yep. Iraq was Iraq. And, you know, at the time, like, we were in Afghanistan during my first tour. Like, Iraq was all the rage. It was what all the cool kids were doing. Like, right. It was where all the pretty girls went to go dance. And, you know, us in Afghanistan, we're like, you know, I was so far in front. Yeah, I was so far in the front. Like, you know, I was in a village and kids asked me, the people asked me if I was from Japan. You know, I'm like in a place, we have no food, no water. There was times where you know, we were rationed to 2 bottles of water a day because we just didn't have any water. And like, we couldn't get resupplied. Nobody could get out to us. And we were kind of out there because, like, you know, we were stuck there. Mm-hmm. And like, to get resupplied, you know, CDS bundles would come from C-130s. You know, like C-130s would have to fly over our COP bank and then just start pushing. And then we'd have to race against the locals to get to our own supplies. Your shit. Yeah. Wow. Legit, man. Like, the locals would see it and they would be on their mopeds. And as soon as the parachute started opening, and, you know, if it was a bad drop, you know, by the time we got to the far end of the bundles, like, those dudes had already pillaged, like, all they rat fucked everything, man. And, you know, like,
I feel like there's an apocalypse now in, like, the early years of Afghanistan when Iraq was getting all the attention. There's like there's a modern masterpiece that needs to be made about what was going on out there.
Oh, yeah. And like, you know, I would read about dudes who did a tour in Vietnam in like 66, and then they would go back in 68 and be like, oh my God, how has it changed so much? Mm-hmm. And then like by 71, they're like, I don't even recognize this country. And I lived that, man. It was nuts to process that, but I lived that. And I watched Afghanistan or Bagram, and I'd be like, dude, this place is going to be awesome. And like, it's got this, this, and this. And they're like, what kind of war is this? And I'm like, yeah, I know, right? You know, and then...
war as hell.
Can't fight war with that KFC.
No, yeah, right? And then, you know, by like, you know, 2017, you know, I was on my last tour, you know, I'm like, I was going down to Kandahar with my commander to do something. I don't think I took my platoon. No, I was going for something, and like, to go meet the sergeant major, because I was the first sergeant, and I went to go down to Kandahar, to go meet the sergeant major, and like, I was pumped, dude, because I'm like, dude, Kandahar boardwalk is awesome, and it just devastated me to find it just closed down, and like, all it was the coffee shop.
And they had opened some stuff back up too by the time you got there. It was worse when I was there, like 6 months before that.
Yeah.
Like, it was just Nathan's hot dog and the smoothie shop. That was it.
Like, this is broke my heart, man. And I watched it transform, just like dudes I read about in Vietnam. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Iraq and came back. Again, like the patch chart had it. Like, said the 101st was going. Re-enlisted for the 101st, man. 7 months later, I found myself back in Afghanistan, yeah.
So this would have been, what, 2008, 2009?
2008, yeah.
That's that's one of the roughest times in the history of combat in Afghanistan,
man.
For sure.
Found myself in JBAD, you know, with the Pathfinder detachment. You know, we had no officers. We had a first sergeant, sergeant first class, two staff sergeants, and you know, we're not BSOs, so for those like battle space owners, so we're not a BSO. And then because we're in the Pathfinders, we're organic to an aviation unit, so they don't own any battle space. So the way we had to like shop ourselves was we would hop around from cop to cop, and you give a CAPE brief, a capabilities brief. Like, this is what I can do to like help you out. You know, anything from sniper operations to recon and surveillance, sling load operations, casevac, medevac operations, like whatever it is that, you know, we can support your assaults or conduct the assaults ourselves. Like, we can fast rope insert. We do like, I was also a fries and spies master there. Like, we can do whatever it is that you need. And like, a lot of people would, you know, a lot of the commanders there, because they're at like company and platoon size cops, you know, they were like, nah, man, like, fuck off. Like, I can do this myself. And no, we're not trying to take your glory or anything like that. I understand that you're capable. We're just trying to help. Like,
we're just trying to find
reprieve.
A job.
We're just trying to provide a reprieve for your guys, man. Like, you know, we're here to help. We're on the same team, like Team America, remember? Like, but
I'm surprised the aviation unit didn't try to retain you as like a dart, because that's what we did to our Pathfinders.
I did.
Oh, okay.
I did. We rescued. We recovered. I mean, I can't tell you how many UH-60s. Like 3 or 4 CH-47s. A couple OH-58s. A Jalen's broke loose. We had a fast rope on top of a mountain, and recovered this like $2 or $3 or $4 million camera that was in that stupid thing. An MI8. So, you know, one of their hips.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so we did that as well.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, but we're also like a very small, high speed like detachment that was, I mean, extremely capable. Some of the most capable people I've ever worked with. I'm just trying to find our way and help. And like in the N2KL, it's like mountaintop to mountaintop. Like it's hundreds of meters away. It's high. Like when you're inserting into the battle space, like, you know, the Black Hawk can only fit like 6 or 7 combat loaded paratroopers in there, and it can only go as high as 9,000 feet. And then there's certain passes where they're just like, I can't get over this mountain. Like, I'm gonna have to either land here or we're gonna have to find a different way. And you know, you get out at like 9,000 feet, you can't breathe. Like, some of these mountains we're humping up, like, you know, with 3 points of contact, it's like so steep. It's feet and a hand, and just one hand on the weapon as you're trying to climb up it. Like,
I tell you, man, like 9,000 feet, like 10,000 is like the magic number. You know, and I mean, and I never did it in Afghanistan, but like in Colorado, just going for a fucking hike, and you know, when we lived out there, and you get to 10,000, and there's something about hitting that mark where the oxygen just dissipates so much more. I couldn't imagine humping like 115, 130 pounds of shit.
Miserable.
And at 10 or 12,000 feet, like that'd be misery, man.
Like, you wouldn't believe. And the thing is like the Afghans would just go zipping up and down, and like we're like, man, and we're like, you know, we'd be pulling security and shit, and like the morning, like the day would break. So like Operation Mountain Highway 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, like, you know, the day would break, and you turn around and like, how the fuck did these Afghans get inside of our perimeter? Like, who is pulling security over there? Because I know he didn't walk by me, and like we're already, you know, compromised like right off the bat. And I'm like, I don't know what platoon I'm attached to right now, but whoever they are, this is a no bueno situation right now.
Yeah.
Like, easily could have been shot in the back or whatever it was, but yeah, man. You know, RCEs.
So a lot of fighting on that 08 deployment.
Not for me. Because again, like, we weren't battle space owners. So what would happen is we would act as a QRF for people. So like while Wenat was happening, we inserted. So like those don't know the Battle of Wenat. I think that was late July or August of 08. And that was right. You know, they lost 9 dudes that day. Now we, like, when we inserted, like, there's burned down Humvees all over. Like, the Humvees are burnt to just bare metal. Like, you know, the AC-130 was flying in daylight, and the Apaches and AC-130s flew cover for us all night, firing all night, like all night. They were trying to get the LRAS up because a lot of those dudes who got killed were manning the machine gun where the LRAS was at. And the LRAS, I'm not sure what it stands for because it's a Cav Scout, Cav Scout device. It's like a thermal imaging, but it's giant. That you kind of use it to peek around through the night. Like it had been, man, there's a 240 there, and like that 240 was just laying it down. And so every time, you know, it would do its business. The guy would get shot, and they'd do a dead gunner drill. The gun would go cold for a little while, do a dead gunner drill, and then get that thing back up, and then somebody would man it, and then he would get killed. So it was, you know, it was being effective on the battlefield, and the Taliban took exception to it. So they made it a point to quiet that thing down. There's only like 42 of us out there. It was really small against 250 or something like that.
Jesus Christ.
And then, you know, the next day, all the special ops dudes got to come and get some. So I think the SEALs inserted 2 teams, and then ODA inserted a couple teams, and they just went out to the distance, like trying to look. But we stayed with them for those couple days until they moved out afterwards. Wow. But I mean, really rough time for the 173rd, man. I'll give it to him. Like Sergeant Major Villamoto, you know, he had his son was killed in that deployment. I'll give it to him. Those were probably some of the hardest fighting bastards I've ever seen. I'll give it to him every day of the week.
A good friend of mine was one of my instructor pilots on that 2017 deployment. He was an infantryman at Wanat. He was wounded at Wanat, and it shaped his entire approach to combat going forward.
Yeah, it was, I mean, that was a brutal fight, man. Like those, I mean, it doesn't happen like that every day. Like those are the exceptions, not like the how much combat, but just how intense those one particular, because they had been in another one too. I think it was that same platoon, because it was just a platoon there with attachments and stuff like that. Like not the Bunny Ranch. That's a whorehouse in Vegas, right?
I don't know.
The ranch house.
Yeah.
The ranch house. Yeah.
Because they lost a platoon sergeant during that engagement.
Yeah. Yeah, but like Keating, all of those places, like I've been to all of those places, and I'm like, I mean, that's Afghanistan to me.
Yeah.
You know,
there were a lot of really bad decisions made in that like 2005 to 2008 timeframe where they were putting some of those cops. Just like, it's like some general just said, I don't care how you do it. I want a cop on that road. Yeah. I want a cop in that valley, and I want it by the end of the week. And they're like, I guess we just put it at the bottom because you didn't give us enough time to do a proper like job of scouting, or I don't know what the excuse was, but it was, you know, Keating overrun.
Yeah, that was Keating right there. Yeah, for because the PRT was like, that was a big push, you know, back then, and so like the PRT is gonna succeed no matter what. No matter what, they have
to be on this road in order to succeed, and that was it.
No matter what was multiple people's lives, multiple American soldier lives.
Not to mention the numbers of wounded or, you know, severely traumatized, or the Afghans that are killed as a result of that. I mean, you know, it's war is war, right? I mean, you're certainly not going to stay up late at night worrying about that. But, you know, 9 dead Americans means how many dead Afghans in a firefight like that?
Yeah, man. 2 or 3 times as many.
Oh,
easily,
considerably more. Like that was a force of 250. Like they merged together across the border, because we were up in the mountains. We were like right there. Across the border, and just came and rained hell. You know.
So that was 2008. Run us to the next one, man.
10 in Kalat. But I'd also gotten hurt, and I was fast roping. I'd also gotten hurt, and I was having surgery. And, I was supposed to get kicked out of the army for it. But I convinced the doctor to take pity on a poor soul and kind of like shuffle my paperwork around. And they allowed me to. I told him, like, look, sir, like, if you this is right before everything went digital in the army. It's like, you just write me a permanent profile, and like, if I have any issues, like, feel free to kick me out. I walked that whole tour with my foot like canted in, and and that was how I like. If you ever walk through the mountains or anything like that, like, it's stupid. So don't do that. Like, take care of yourself, please.
Yeah.
You only get one body, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. I have a FOMO of war. No. I just I couldn't miss anything. And I just needed to be there. I was devastated when I came back, and I was on orders to Fort Stewart. Nah,
you didn't think you were gonna go anywhere, did you?
Fuck no, dude. No.
Yeah, nobody did. That was like the big surprise.
Yeah,
trick.
I got to Stewart in I think September of 2011.
Oh, man, you're brand new as well.
Yeah, Iraq wasn't. There was nothing shaking in Iraq, and like everybody knows, if you're on third ID,
that's Iraq.
You're only going to Iraq. Like, there's no other place for you to go. You're going to Iraq. And so there's nothing shaking in Iraq, and I was so brokenhearted. No. Yeah, dude.
That's the way I felt coming back from Iraq. We didn't see any combat, and
yeah,
like I knew it was done. I was like, well, it's like I'm never gonna have that CIB. I'm never gonna get the experience. Like, I was pretty disappointed that I didn't get to do the thing that I joined the army to do. Joke's on me. But.
Yeah, but the thing is like, people think it's stupid or it's hubris or like, be careful what you wish for, and it is all of those things. But
yeah,
ultimately, like, it's a test.
Yes.
And everybody just wants to test themselves. That's it. Like, you just want to see how you're going to react. And that is like a natural, God-given instinct, man. That is just man at his most primal. Because I just want to see how I'm going to react. How am I going to... That's like a fight, like, if you're scared to be in a fist fight, sure, that's natural. But like, how am I going to react after I get socked in the face?
Well, I always likened it to, like, if you're like a professional athlete and all you ever do is practice.
Yeah.
You go to practice for 5 years and you never play a game.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's like to be it's like to be an infantryman and never go to war. Like,
yeah, it's an exceptional
Of course, you want to go and do your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
don't know. It is weird to explain to people that, yeah, I wanted to go to war. Like, why? It's like, because that's the job I signed up for. It's not like I signed up to be like a signals tech or a, whatever. I signed up to be a gunfighter, and a gunfighter needs to get into a gunfight, in addition to the whole, I want to test myself and see what I'm made of. That's why we picked the infantry, right? Yeah. We picked it because, like, yeah, I want the challenge. I want to go to war. I want to see what I'm made of. And then once you go through basic training and you go through NTC and all this shit, you're like, all right, well, let's go. Let's do my job. I'm here to do a job.
Yeah. How fine of an edge are we gonna hone here? Like, can we go do something before I go too far?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I loved it, man. It was basic, and the rules are pretty simple. So. Yeah. Like, you either live or you don't. And like, you fuck up and you don't live.
Right.
You do something stupid, somebody pays the price for it. Everything was... It seemed much more simplistic, and like, the rules are set. Whereas, like, back in the States, like life is complicated, and there is no left and right boundary. It's asymmetric, back here back in life, in normal life, but like in combat, it's pretty simple. And that's what I think I've always appreciated about it.
I think that's one thing that a lot of guys, when they get out, I think that's part of the reason they struggle when they get out of the military, is that the military, especially in combat, is extreme. Like you said, it's extremely simple. Like you go and you do what you're told, you walk. If you get shot at, you shoot back. Like, as obviously as you move into more, senior positions of rank and authority, there's more to it. But for the most part, if you're an infantryman, you don't have to worry about the ROE. If you get shot at, you shoot back. You're going to go for a walk. All you have to do is be fit, pay attention, and make sure your gun works. Yeah. And then when you're done, you're going to go watch, movies on the bunk with the boys or go to the gym. And then you're going to wake up and you're going to do it all over again. It's very simple.
It is.
And life is not.
No. It's decidedly not. I'm like, maybe that's part of my problem too. Maybe I was just avoiding life also. Because, I was really fucked up, man, for a long time. I mean, it took me until about 2015, 2016, where I just didn't want to kill myself every day. And like, that's, it's hard to say, but I just, it was a lot to process, like, and then constantly like going and coming back and going and coming back, and like in such short time, like I didn't know how to be me anymore. I mean, it really took a long time for like me to smile or laugh or, any of those things, because I lost myself for a little while, for a long time. I struggled with life, and part of me was out here like trying to do dumb shit to get myself killed, because I didn't have the balls to kill myself. Whereas like I could go out there and like be a goddamn sorry lord. I could be a maniac in the fight, and like worst comes to worst, I got myself killed, and it's no big deal. And my family gets paid, and no big deal, man. Hey, give 20 grand to the boys so they can fucking throw a rager to celebrate.
Right.
But other than that, like it's complicated.
Yeah.
War was simple, and life, I was having a hard time with it.
Yeah. And that's a poignant observation, man. Like, and especially, I mean, I got there in 2012, but in like the last 2-3 months, so it, if that repeated exposure, you get to that point where you're just like, fuck it, who cares? Like, just fucking you. And it's the irony of that is it makes you a better fighter. Yeah. In a lot of ways, like it makes you a better killer. Because you just don't get, you're not worried about what happens when you stick your head up. You're gonna stick your head up, see what's up, and start lobbing rounds.
I'm telling you, I've done some dumb shit in fights.
Curtis is like a very specific story.
I've done some very dumb stuff.
Yeah,
but I mean, you locked on to something very, very interesting, and I felt it myself before, which is like this idea of like an honorable death. It's like, well, if I'm going to go out, I want to go out like fighting. I want to go out at war. I want to go out protecting somebody else. I want to go out doing something that's going to bring my name honor. And it's not like you're trying to, it's not like this big Viking thing, which I know that's a whole big thing to a lot of people, but it's more like just for me personally, and this was me before my 2017 deployment. I mean, you can ask Luke, I was convinced I wasn't coming back. I even made like a video and everything. Like I was pretty sure I wasn't coming back. It was just this idea that the greatest waste of life, personally, waste of my life would be to like die on my couch at 70.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm 30 years old. This is it. I've lived 30 good years. I'm going to go down like protecting some dude with with my helicopter going down in flames. Like I was convinced, and I was okay with that. I was almost kind of looking forward to it. It was a kind of a dark time of my life too. So that what you were saying very much resonates with me.
Yeah.
Because that's when everything else is dark. At least you have that. At least you have that chance when you feel like your life is going nowhere, you can make something of it. And I think a lot of guys, when they get out, they've been robbed of that opportunity. Right. They don't have that chance to die an honorable death. And personally, I think that's a major contributor to this, the issue that we have with mental health and suicide.
Oh yeah, man. I can't tell you how many of my friends that, have, and some of them, like, and to this day, like, even my friends, like, they're really, really impacted by it, like, by people you wouldn't expect, man. Like Sylvester Cook, he's a good friend, and like, he really, like, when we found out about his death, that, like, my friend Chris Cleveland, dude I hugged in this fight. Yeah. He's like my brother. I call him my brother Chris. Like, he's really impacted by the death of Cookie, man. And like, it's hard. Now, so my son was born, and then, I couldn't, now I have a reason to live, and like, so my justification for, the way I fight is like, wasn't nobody in this fucking world gonna tell my son that his daddy was a coward. Nobody. With nobody. And they'll be like, that dude was a fucking hellion. I'm like, yeah. That's what if I died, that's what I want somebody to tell my son. It's like, that dude was, like, he was it.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's an ethos that is just becoming background noise for our culture, our society. Like, we won't lament, but the idea of, like, really knuckling down and kind of developing that mindset of being capable of kind of being in that space, working in that, I mean, that's something that's rapidly becoming no longer popular in the cultural milieu to an extent. And
yeah,
I'd imagine the Army's really seeing that effect too. Like, I feel like the Army's not making soldiers anymore. They're making soldiers, but they're not making killers.
They ain't making warriors, I'll tell you that much. It's it's we're gonna have to have an awakening. The country's gonna have to have an awakening to recognize before we recognize just what's happened to culture in the military. And like,
well, I mean, we've had this weird cultural shift where we're like, we want our military to be professional, like it's a Fortune 500 company, or these extremely well-rounded, like very culturally aware people, and that's fine. But at the end of the day, ultimately, when you're talking infantry, soft, like a lot of these groups, your job is to kill people. Yeah. Like, that is its own profession. Like, professional doesn't mean the same as a guy working in an office. Professional means whatever your profession is, you are the best at it. And I've always said, man, infantry, we need to be like feeding them steroids, making them work out 16 hours a day, like have a brothel on base, and just let those dudes be killers, because that is, and I say that only half joking, but I want the infantry to be this like bottle of soda that we've just like shaken for 6 years, and then the minute we have to let them out, we just pop it, and it's just an explosion of hatred and rage and murder. That's what it should be, and we've decided that that's not what we want our military to be, and that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, we can't even go to that.
No, it's way too much to unpack there, but 100%. Sure. I feel older people, like an older vet, would probably lose their shit pretty well if they could see what was happening. It'd be shocking.
Yeah. And on the flip side, I think every generation has its moment where it surprises its older generations,
Yeah.
I'm sure that, back in 2001, 2002, the old guard was like, man, these young bucks better young bucks better strap in, because they ain't ready for what's going to happen when we go to Afghanistan.
Because I was in basic training when 9/11 happened. I'm like, holy fuck, dude. And like, I got to a unit with like pre 9/11 NCOs, And like we trained and like, you know, when the shooting started, like it was like automatic. Like I didn't even think about it, which is, you know, that's the definition of a battle drill. It's like not to think. I didn't even think about it. And like I just automatically knew what needed to happen. And like, you know, I just let me and Matilda, we waltz, man. And like, you know, I did, let me tell you something. Really quickly, and I don't care if this makes it
go for it.
Let me tell you how stupid I am, or how genius I thought I was once.
This is good.
So like, you know, I was in, you know, we were in a couple firefights and shit like that, and I'm like, you know, I'm really tired of my weapon and my magazines being dirty all the time. You know, so what I did was I shucked all my magazines and I cleaned them. I took them apart and everything like that, and then I cleaned them and I like oiled them down, and then I put them inside of Ziploc bags, and then I put them in my rack, and then we did a raid.
Oh no.
We did a raid, right? And like they had just left, like seconds before, like the fire's still going, the tea's still steaming, the rice is still hot. Like as we were coming in the front door, they're going out the back door, and we're like, okay, so we did a quick search of the village, couldn't find anything. Like we're getting in the, like I climb up the LMTV, we're leaving, and then the cornfield just, it just opens up, and we're like, fuck! And like, you know, we're jumping off the LMTVs and stuff, because again, like remember, we just put 2 boxes of MREs down the side.
Right. Yeah.
And then we sit back to back and we face out, and then we put water on the outside, so now we have food and water just in case, and like blah blah blah, and a place to sit down. I'm like, you know, I jump down and I'm behind the tire and I'm like, pop, 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 you know, and I'm like, yeah, like this is everything awesome, like everything is right in the world.
Right.
And then I'm like, I drop my magazine and I go to change mags, like I'm back behind the tire. Man, I got my magazine and this Ziploc bag coated in oil. Because I figured, you know, like the CLP would help the bullets like slide out better and everything. And like it's covered in fucking oil, dude. And like I can't grasp it to open it.
The plastic, yeah.
Yeah, I can't grasp it to open the Ziploc bag. And like I can't fucking tear it. And like I got this empty fucking rifle in the middle of this firefight. And I'm like,
God.
fuck. And then Dion Walker, we call him Night Walker, he just fucking looks at me and kind of like gives a disapproving shaking of the head, and then he like throws me a magazine, and I'm back in the fight, and I'm like, I gotta fix my life when we get back to the COP, because this is clearly this doesn't work, man. And like yeah, dude,
that's
like
what a great war story right there.
Yeah, no,
that's a great war story.
Could have cost me my life. And like we were completely surrounded. I didn't know it at the time. I only was dealing with this threat, but there was the homies up in Black Man Jammies on the high ground. We were completely surrounded. I didn't know it. I'm like shooting down and shit. And I was like, and then, you know, to make things worse, like we were on our way back to the COP. Which, who knows how long it takes hours and shit. Like, I had taken off my helmet to like adjust myself or whatever it is. And like, as I was jumping down, you know, my PL's flanking. Like he's coming around and he's taking, so I'm running up and my platoon sergeant, you know, he's yelling at me. He's like, Tommy Winters, Sergeant First Class Tommy Winters. He's like, Morgan, are you trying to get your head blown off, you fucking dumbass? Get back here and put your helmet on. So I had to turn around and like run back to the truck and like put my it wasn't an ACH at the time. It was the old school Pax helmet. Oh, put my helmet on. Yeah, right? It was awesome, dude. That's how awesome I am. You know, I was wearing a Pax helmet. Like put my helmet on and then like run, dude. I was so fucking smoked, you know, and we're like flanking. And then like Ogo, who'd been, you know, we'd been there when whoever, I was going to say something disparaging, but like when the enemy opened up on us and stuff, like he puts his knee on the dirt berm and like he cracks off one shot, you know, like a movie. And he's like, who do you guys think you're shooting at, huh? He's this little dude, like 100 pounds from Guam. And he's like, hey, like, who you guys think you're shooting at, bro? And I'm like, oh my God, okay.
I love the infantry so much.
Yeah, man. But I was so smoked. Like, nobody tells you in combat just how tired,
how ruined,
tired you can get
once that adrenaline dumps. Oh man,
yeah, dude.
You're Superman for about 15 minutes.
Oh man, it's fucking awesome. And you know, we had just been talking shit. We were like, me and the homie Chris, we had just been talking shit before we were leaving to Exfil. Like, yeah, y'all motherfuckers don't want none. And man, sure enough, it was awesome. But yeah.
I mean, there's a good story from our deployment of at the Battle of Route Brown. You guys got out there.
Oh, dude, I love the
and you were duking it out. And me and the British dude who ran the Afghan security guys were out on that furthest.
So it's like a Hesco's or something.
Guard post. It was like way. It was past the Hesco's. Yeah,
it was like way out there in the spur on Sperwan Ghar, just shooting at everything that fucking moved in the tree line, and you guys were humping your way back in, and you guys, it's a long patrol. You've been smoked out anyways, and the dudes who were coming into the gate were just kind of like lobbing along, and this guy turns to me and says, "You Americans never get in a hurry, do you?"
I mean, that was like the third firefight of the day, and then like that thing wasn't like no small tick or nothing. Like that was a full on
a full blown battle.
Yeah, like we got the Taliban commander was on the radio. They're like, the helicopters are coming, and I don't care. Keep shooting. And we like look at each other, we're like, oh shit, like, okay, let's get it, man.
And to like give context, and we'll tell this story and then we'll Tarantino back to the beginning. But not only was there an entire platoon of infantry on this road, and we've talked about in like our Instagram posts about how exposed Route Brown was.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no cover, just the ditch is all your cover.
Yeah.
Entire platoon on this road, but there's also an entire fucking company on the walls. Every platoon is on the wall. We're elbowing each other for spots on the freaking Hesco's. There's people on the roof. There's people in trucks.
I mean,
the helicopters are doing gun runs where they're shooting while they're over top of Sperwan Ghar, and the brass is falling down on us.
240s were the noise was it was deafening. Man. Like it was bananas. I was like, volume of fire. Shit.
So I gotta tell a war story here. Sorry, but I made a conscious decision to not put on my PT shoes, so I could say I fought in flip flops. Because like the shit was going off out on Route Brown. You guys were getting fucked up, and I started getting my kit on. I had my PTs on. I was getting my kit on, and I almost put my feet, and I was like, no. Flip flops. And I put my flip flops on, and that's the reason I ended up way out there in that spur. Because like Kurt said, like, everybody was
that story from like Frontline or one of those news magazines that come out, and like the dude was like in his pink boxers and his junkies. Is that why?
Like iconic photo.
Yeah. That's good, man. That's solid. That's good shit right there, dude.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be in a firefight. Again, like in 2017, there's a ODA team sergeant, man. Like he's going out, no t-shirt, plate carrier, ranger panties, and reef sandals, man. I'm like,
yeah, but okay, but he was going on patrol like that,
yes, he was going on patrol. Like he wasn't like
that's
manning the wire.
I don't know about that.
Like yeah, 100%. There's a difference. You're right.
Yeah.
He's going out on patrol.
I'm at least going to put pants and boots on. I'm sorry. Like
me too.
I want to be comfortable. Like that's not comfortable for a walk. That's comfortable to hop up on the wall and take a couple shots. But I don't want to walk like that.
No.
Fuck that.
But me too, man. Gosh. Yeah. Little did I know.
So we hit the rewind button.
Oh yeah, rewind button.
Go back to when you showed up to Fort Stewart.
Yeah,
and
man.
You got orders that it was like you're going to Afghanistan. The first thing you thought was these.
Well, no, because this was what it's like September of 2011. There was nothing. No.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was a pretty senior, definitely experienced staff sergeant at the time, and I remember third being extremely light in the NCO world. And there was no staff sergeants. I remember Corey Kahn. But he was retiring. Lieutenant Turboville, he was refratting from the lieutenant, meaning released from active duty, like for an officer to get out of the Army. So he was refratting, and Lieutenant McGrath came in. So I took over for Corey Khan. So I was the platoon sergeant for 3rd Platoon for a while, and then I was not for a while, but I was the platoon sergeant for 3rd Platoon, and Jimmy took over as the PL. Now, we did all the things, all the train ups, all the sticks, all the live fires. Went to NTC. So it was my company at NTC that was stealing the guidon. I went later to go talk to him, and like they're like, "Oh yeah, we took your guidon," and I was like, "You guys are fucking idiots, man." Because that was the thing, like the 101st. We were the 101st Pathfinder company. We were the only Pathfinder company in the Army that had not ceased to operate since its inception in World War II. The only one.
Wow.
There's other ones that had come and gone or whatever, but we kept our lineage, and we've been in every war since. Like that was just part of our thing was, at Campbell was to take guidons, and if you were getting caught or chased down, it was to say like Rakasans or something stupid, and like so that way to throw them off like it's some other unit. And we had a whole we had an upstairs compartment to our building, but there was no stairs. You had to climb the rope to get there. So you had to climb up a rope to get to the top of, and like the whole thing just has all these guidons and stuff in it. No, that was just the thing from the 101st.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. I forgot about the guidon being stolen.
Oh, dude, it pissed Captain Kitchen off so bad.
He is not.
He was very salty about it. Incredibly salty about it. Yeah, man, went to NTC, and then we started hearing, well, before then, like, I had started hearing rumors about 1st Brigade going. So I called Division G1, the Sergeant Major there, and I'm like, hey, like, this is me. I gave him my whole little spiel about wanting to go and blah, 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 like, the experience and, like, blah, 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 and, like I need to be in 1st Brigade.
Right.
So I can deploy. And he was like, who is this again? And I was like, Staff Sergeant Morgan.
Haven't you heard of me?
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, don't ever call here again. And also, how do you know that you're not going? Or how do you know that your unit's not going? And then he hung up the phone. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And we went to NTC, and like we did the thing. Well, I think we got told before then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We got pulled to a tree or something.
November of 2000 and
like we had like a fireside chat, right? Under like a tree or something.
Yeah, it was like the BC came out and he was debriefing everybody. It was like right before Thanksgiving. It was like a couple weeks before Thanksgiving.
Nah.
So you hadn't been there long then when we found out.
Yeah.
2 months.
No. Yeah. I can't remember. I think it was either August 2011, maybe something like that. It was August or September.
Been there 2 or 3 months. Man, you got War Magnet written all over you. Man. You just catch them, don't you?
True. And I was like, man, this 3rd ID.
You thought you was getting put out to pasture, and then you get there 2 months later, you're going to fucking Panjwai.
Yeah. 3rd ID was a strange animal, like really weird. Like the Martin Standard really blew my mind.
Oh God!
Like, what kind of idiot thought of that? Like,
we're gonna make every infantryman wear the kit the exact same way. Fuck off, man!
It is the dumbest shit I got. Man, I once got like 3rd Platoon was running a training area for the company, and like the Sergeant Major came out, the battalion Sergeant Major came out, and like I had said like, I mean, it's pretty fucking hot out here. Like, there's no reason to be wearing all this stuff. I'm like, he's like, Morgan, get over here. And I started running across the open field, and he's like, fucking low crawl. And like, 3rd Platoon took that so personal that 3rd Platoon sergeant was out there like low crawling until I hit his feet, and then he's like, get up. And I was like, okay. And he's like, what the fuck's going on here? I'm like,
the official stance of the Panjwai Podcast is he was a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's a rare one from us. It's very rare.
It is. We try not to call people out, but that guy was a piece of crap.
No,
we won't call him out by name. There you go.
Yeah. I don't even remember.
I can't remember his name. I can see his fucking face, and I'd like to punch it. Yeah, he was a piece of shit.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. Like 3rd Platoon was awesome. Again, not a lot of NCOs, not a lot of leadership, not a lot of experience. The only person who'd been to Afghanistan was John Johnson.
John
Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
John Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he had been to similar places that you had. He had been up in the east.
Yep. He'd fought in the Pesh.
Mm-hmm.
He fought in the Pesh River Valley, which those of you who don't know and you've never been there, like one of the roughest places on the face of the earth. Yeah. I mean, the Korangal is so special. It's so weird. Like those people don't even speak any version of Afghan. They have their own language. It's called Korangali, and like your Terps are like, I don't know what these people are saying.
And it's not a big valley either. It's very small.
No,
it's like a couple miles long.
About it.
Yeah,
but it's absolutely like
it's a microcosm, man.
There's nothing it's its own little world, man. Like no matter what you do, you could send in a whole country's worth of army into that valley, and you'd still never pacify it.
Because they just want to be left the fuck alone. Man.
Yeah.
I can relate, dude. I'm a Korangali at heart. Leave me the fuck alone.
Well, and then the other platoon sergeants. I forgot who was in second, but it wasn't Hendry at the time. It was somebody. And then you guys had James Ott, who's obviously like the most senior of us, but not.
But ironically, was also extremely inexperienced.
Yeah,
because he had spent most of his career in TRADOC. He had half of Luke's deployment in Iraq, but they didn't see any combat. So, like, we learned his mettle eventually. He's a stellar NCO, one of the best of the best of the best. But at that point, he didn't even know it. He had no idea what he was made of either.
He helped me out a lot, like, back in the rear before we deployed. Yeah. Kind of like what the company was about, how the battalion operated, like what I should expect, and blah blah blah. Like he helped me out a lot, and he was a good dude. I used to go drink coffee, like at the schoolhouse on Sperwan Ghar and shit. So, like he was good, and I truly appreciated him. And then if you guys remember, like right before we left, we started getting all these people in from different units. Like they were plussing up 164 with squads from other brigades. And
brand new guys like me.
Just
like 30 brand new privates.
Dudes. And all the NCOs were coming from other brigades.
2-7 and stuff.
And a sergeant first class came in, and they gave him 3rd platoon. And so I think they had a talk, and it was kind of like, as great as a guy is, Mo is, like, I just think he carries too much influence or whatever with the soldiers, and like he can't be in the platoon, because they thought that there would be like a test of loyalty, if that makes sense, in there. So I got moved, and they told me I'll go take over 2nd platoon. I was like, well, why wouldn't this guy just go take over 2nd platoon? But whatever. I took 2nd platoon for like a day or 2 days. They had like Sergeant Wood and Woody, right?
Yeah,
they had Wood and Woody.
Mm-hmm. Wood and Woody.
Yeah, and they were pumped, dude. And I was like, okay, like this is gonna be good. Like I can at least work with these dudes, because 2nd platoon, they were on some renegade shit, man. Like they were. I was like, all right, man, like whatever. But then the Sergeant First Class list came out, and Miguel Hendry was on it. And, being a staff sergeant promotable clearly takes precedence over me. So he got 2nd platoon. I was homeless again. I had nowhere to go.
Were you ever in 1st platoon at any point?
Technically, yes.
I don't.
Was it your squad in 1st platoon? But then when we got there, you guys got farmed out to the district center or something like that.
I don't know. Nobody wanted to take responsibility for me. I was just I was a redheaded stepchild. No.
Brother, you can rest easy. And I wanted you there. And I was like, I seen this dude. Like, this dude's fucking. He's got it figured out. It's like we need this guy in the platoon, but I was just the old pissed off salty E4.
Yeah. And it really.
I think everyone at district center technically fell under 1st platoon.
I can't remember exactly how it worked, but it boiled down to, you might be right. Like, I think somebody said that I would be in 1st platoon then. And I would take this group of homeless people who also, like Tom Evans, they had Sergeant Mayar. Sergeant Mayar, what an awesome dude.
Mayar, I forgot about him.
Sean McCaffrey, Morales,
Pfeiffer,
Morales,
Trey Domingo,
Jesse Klein, Dominguez, Gabriel Dominguez.
Dominguez, he's squared away, dude.
Yeah, he did. He came over. And I was like, okay, whatever. And we were on Sperwan Ghar for a little while, and they're like, hey, you guys are going to go over to DHQ. I went over to DHQ. And, I helped that so before SFAB, they had the SFAT. And it was like SFAAT, so like Security Forces Advisory and Assist Team. And it was just some made up group of people of officers and NCOs of differing MOSs to help kind of guide a Kandak.
Kandak is like a A&A battalion.
A&A battalion, yeah, right. So there was like a fires officer, there's a medic, some other support, like, and a couple maneuver and some support dudes, and kind of like, this is how you're going to shape your battalion to advise them and assist.
Right.
But we ran everywhere from like Cop Lion down at the tip of the Horn to, Kandahar and everywhere in between. So I knew the area very well, but, we weren't, and they weren't combat troops. Like their mission wasn't combat. They were pushing themselves to try to go find it. But they weren't able to.
I think one of the things that we should like paint clearly, and this speaks to how Panjwai worked and how just pocketed everything was. It's like you guys were literally just down the road. I mean, it was like a hop and a skip, like maybe 2 miles.
A little bit more than that. Probably, but it was just
than that. We were
just past the district center. I mean, just past the bazaar.
Yeah.
Just past Mazamgar. We were probably
a mile,
2 miles from Mazamgar.
Yeah,
and we were just past the bazaar.
So not just a hop and a skip, and it was in an entirely different mission shit.
Different world. Yeah. The ODA was there. USAID was there.
State
all
Department,
these different kind of like NGOs were there.
State Department.
State Department, yeah. The CA and PSYOPs were there. And then right across the river, across the bridge from us, was the PRT for Zari. And so, they were more on that advise and assist and that humanitarian kind of effort. Like they were just paying out monies for whatever kind of grievance anybody would come up. And then, as the fighting season turned on, we would get the wounded. And they'd be like, oh, he was just standing there and got shot, or he was walking down the path and like his asshole's hanging out of his body because, he was squatting over the IED, not just walking down the road. Like he was
right. Yeah.
So we were getting
pretty
all
obvious
the fighters.
When somebody's involved.
Yeah. So we were getting all the fighters, and we're like, well, what do you want? I'm not. I don't know. There's probably somebody who would say I'm like callous or cold, and I'm like, well, what do you want me to do about it? But Evans was there. They had their doc, Nanetti. They had the 18 Delta. These different people, so they would do the things, and we'd medevac them out, and okay. But it is what it is. And then it was after Luxmore, after BJ got killed. I saw Doc Burner, and I'd spent the whole train up with Burner. He was my medic.
And Luxmore.
yeah, and Luxmore, because he was the RTO. And he was on the crew for the Brad. 2 days later, he was still walking around with that bloody ass uniform, and he still got BJ's blood all over him. I'm like, we talked for a little while. I'm like, Alex, you can't be walking around with this fucking thing, man. Like, that's a constant reminder to the dudes every moment. And like BJ's death hurt. You know, like he was that rarity and like a company like where he kind of crosses platoons. You know, again, like most platoons are pretty internal. Like you just don't talk to people from other platoons. Like it's just kind of just the way it works. I mean, that's always been my experience. And like, you know, he got killed. That hurt more than just third platoon. Like it hurt like the company. Everybody felt that impact. One, it made it real. Like, you know, it wasn't like Lily or Pennock or, you know, Brazos. Like, this is one of our own.
Right.
And, you know, it made it worse. And I had seen him before we deployed, and I was still, you know, 3rd Platoon Bravo Company. I was still a platoon sergeant. You know, I saw BJ and Jamie and his mom and dad and like downtown at a restaurant. And I was like, hey, like, don't worry, this is going to be cake. BTDT, like I'll bring him home, no worries. It could be amazing. 9 months and we'll be back before you know it. Just take a couple naps and we'll be back. Like, no big deal. No. Nothing to do with me. Clearly failed that one. You know, it was devastating to hear him when he got killed. I saw Camp Kitching. Like, I can't accept no as an answer. Like, I have to be in this. You have to get me back to my platoon. I need to be back with my guys. I can't do this anymore. This is it's not fair for me.
Yeah. And I think to illustrate, you know, why that was so important to you and what was going on in the company at the time, you know, the DHQ mission was very important, but I mean, you're basically driving between COPs, you're staying on the roads, and the paved roads in Panjwai were fairly safe. There wasn't a whole lot of risk just driving COP to COP. But you know, in the units that were BSOs that were owning battle space, they're walking into the Grape Rose, so that's when they're starting to experience all this combat. And BJ's death was part of a very rapid succession of very bad days that we had. So you have May 30th, you lose Brazos on that huge company mission, or battalion mission, I'm sorry.
Yeah, down on the hole.
We come back, and then it's Luxmore on the 10th. It's Pennock and Lily on the 12th. I'm sorry, on the 12th and 14th. And then I think it's like on like 3 or 4 days later after that is Jay. You know, in the span of like 2-3 weeks, it's suddenly, we went from kind of like, okay, this is somewhat manageable. It's dangerous, but manageable, to like, we are losing guys every 2 to 3 days for that very short period of time. And I can't imagine what it was like to be on the outside of that looking in.
Yeah, no, that's fucking miserable, man. Like, it would be different if I had like no emotional or psychological connection with anybody. So like, you know, Tom Evans, he doesn't know any of these people. Mayar, they don't know any of these people. They're just a squad that was thrown into a situation. Whereas I knew these dudes. Like, I know.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I know what's happening. And like, I can listen to the radio and hear it. And like, I would call Sperwan Ghar every fucking night. And I'm like, sir, somebody needs to get me out of here. Somebody, like, I was there, I was calling like every night on the phone because like it wasn't good for me. I couldn't take being there. Like, that's not who I'm a fucking fighter. Like, I need to be there. And more than that, I need to be with my guys. And finally, somebody listened to me, and I finally got pulled back over to Sperwan Ghar. And I saw what happened. I think they kind of like, we need to give some dudes who are like under some stress a reprieve, and like give them a break, and like, let's put some fresh meat in. And you know, when I went back to 3rd Platoon.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Season 3 of the Panjwai Podcast. We appreciate you sticking with us all the way to the end of the episode. But just one more thing before you go, please hit the like and subscribe button, and make sure that you are following us on our social media.